My name is Torche. My illustrator name is Yumiki. I do a lot of manga artistry, but I can also do some scientific illustration or even some digital illustration. But my real passion is anime and manga. Manga you could call a Japanese version of comic books, and to take them into an animation would be anime. The difference between manga and, let's say, an American comic book is the line quality of manga is a lot finer, and there aren't as many dramatic shadows used as opposed to an American comic book. An American comic stays a little bit more in the realm of reality as far as human features, whereas in manga you tend to have a lot of motion lines to emphasize an expression or something that's dramatic. Well, for me, I like things that look a little bit more human, so I tried to get that feel in my drawings. Maybe not so much the over-exaggerated eyes. I really want there to be a human element in it. With my figures, there's always a story first. To have that story, you're already involved. There's definitely a better level of sophistication, you know, facial design, or even costume design. If you have that story to begin with, it makes all of those elements just come to you a lot more smoothly. Today we'll be doing a figure drawing, and we'll be drawing something that I've already developed. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how to get to this level of finish with the Prismacolor markers and the Verithin colored pencils. So, of course, I started out with a preliminary sketch. I work out all my problems, all my details, how she's going to look before I work into a finished piece. And one of the first things that you want to do is pick out a light source for yourself so that you know where the shadows are going to go, you know where the highlights are going to go. It's not a guessing game for you. And what I like to do is I just like to mark that, just where the light is coming from so that I just know where it is. The other thing I like to do is I just like to make a little key for myself. All the colors are kind of similar, so I don't want to lose myself in this. And I've already started here with the Mediterranean blue. And I'll go through this for the whole color palette just so I know. So you don't have to write the whole name on here, just enough so that you know what that color is. The other thing I want to point out is that when you're doing a palette like this on the side of your actual drawing, it's important to use the same paper. If you use something that is a little bit cheaper, which you might want to do just to save money, you'll find that the blades are different on a different paper, and what you get on here looks different from here, and then you have a mistake that you need to fix. So the paper I've chosen is not marker paper per se, but it is for ink. It is mainly used for wet media, which is great for this technique because I layer a lot and the paper really gets saturated. I find that it also keeps my markers wetter longer. So I'll start with her hair. What I want to do is I just pick my lightest color, the pale jade, and just start somewhere up here at the top of her head. And you can move this around pretty liberally. Like, you don't have to be so careful at this point. The streaks and the blotting that you get will make really good color tones for her hair. Now, it's really good to be aware of what parts of your piece are overlapping. For this wing, I have it overlapping her hair, and it's really easy when you're going loosely and you're going quickly to get a little overexcited and just go right over the wing. So just try to be aware of where these things are placed on your piece. So I've got her hair mostly done. Right now it's pretty flat looking. What you want to do is just take another tone. Like for me, I'm just going to take this Cold Stone color. It's still roughly around the same saturation as the pale jade, but slightly darker and slightly a different blue so that I can get another tone in her hair. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to get a basic lay of her hair and kind of building some building blocks here for the detail that will come in later. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm just going to move somewhere down here where I can work. And I'm going to start moving towards her boots. And what I do is I just set up a little palette for myself on the side here so I know what's happening with the colors. And I'll lay down my lightest tone first, which is the mint cream. The next thing I'll lay down is my darkest tone. And put that right over the mint cream. And then take my medium tone and just blend those two together. If I need further blending between all of these colors, I'll just take my lightest tone and use that as my blender to blend all of them together. So I like where this is going. So what I'm going to do is just start at the bottom of the boot, like right here, and I'm going to refrain from outlining the piece first. I know it's really hard to do this because we naturally just want to outline things, but the reason is you just want to keep this wet edge moving to keep the streaking down. If you outline it first, your outlined pieces at the end, like if you were over here and then you started coloring in over here, is going to dry. And then you're going to get that overlapping and you're going to get that streaking. I tried to split it up a little bit so that it's easier for me to move around her leg. And I picked a place where there would be a seam to break it up a little bit for myself so that it's much easier to cover a larger area. So now that I've got my lightest tone, I'm going to go right into my dark tone. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick places where I think her shadows are really going to accentuate just the roundness of her calf. You want to leave a little bit of a highlight underneath here, only because some of the light will be reflected right back up and it just gives her a better form. So now that I've got the dark, I'm going to go back into my medium tone and just sort of blend these two colors together. Still keeping in mind the shape of her calf and how round it is. I did this from memory, but at first, while you're first learning, it's really good to have reference. And generally, if I have problems, I'll go look in a magazine or I'll use myself because I know what I want. So I'll just stand in front of a mirror and I will just get into the pose that I need and I'll just do it and reference myself really quickly. So if you find like you're getting a little bit of a hard edge, you just want to go back over with your light tones and then again with the dark tone, just so that it blends a little bit better. Because right now the marker is really wet, so it blends really easily. So we've finished the legs here, and I'm just going to move back into her hair area. Still using the cold stone, which is the second tone that we used in her hair. So now we're taking our fine tip and just adding a few detailed strokes. Just marking where some of these low lights are going to be, and still just building up how her hair is laying. So in this instance, I like to move my paper around a little bit. Then you can really get the gesture of the hair and move your whole arm as opposed to just your wrist. And it makes it more natural looking. Okay. The next part we're going to work on is still down here on her lower region. I'm going to use another 3 set of colors. A low tone, which will be my pale jade, the sky blue light for my mid-tone, and then my Mediterranean blue for my dark tone. So again, you want to test this out on your paper before you actually put it on your finished piece. Since this is such a large space to move around in and it's kind of hard to keep the wet edge moving, what I'm going to do to help myself is just to take the colorless blender and just lay a little bit of a foundation here for me and wet the paper